Worship Mayor Kendall, Councillor Mohammed Ahmad.
Thank you. This is good. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, councillors. First of all, I want to welcome Dean back to Canterbury Council. Any apologies? I've got apology from Councillor Atkinson. Anyone else? Declaration of interest.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, can I declare a personal interest as a member of Lancashire County Council, which is maybe other registrable, I'm not quite sure, but it doesn't really affect my participation, to be clear.
Item 3, local government reorganisation. Well, wait.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a significant part of our lives, and I say our lives because the people who are on this top table here have spent many happy hours and days looking through the different options that we have before us. We are, however we view this, at a historic meeting. The organisation that we've had for the last 50 years is going to be abolished, Pedal Council, together with the other 14 authorities in Lancashire. Now, whether we like that or not, we need to make sure that we are putting forward the best possible case that we can for residents in our area, the people that we represent. And we've done an enormous amount of work to find what that best option is. And in a little while I will propose that this is the 5 unitary option for Lancashire. I do so because, as the document says, we need to have something that is big enough to deliver but local enough to connect. We need to keep local government truly local, and that sentiment is backed by the 9 out of 10 people in Pendle who responded to our recent survey. Overall, we had 8 out of 10 people supporting a 5 unitary authority proposal. If we look at the ability to innovate, if we look at the ability to be agile, the 5 unitary proposal is the one that ticks all the boxes. It means that a new council can change things, whereas some of the bigger options would lead to inertia, supertanker-sized bodies that could not change course very quickly. We would end up in an authority of just shy of 300,000 people, 261,000 or 267,000 people. And a lot of people will think, well, that's very big, but some of the other options that are on the table, the County Council are proposing that we should have 2 unitaries in Lancashire, and we would be in a local authority, question mark, of 880,000 people. Other options, the 3s and the 4 councils, would put us in a council of 500,000 people and more, 550,000, 560,000 people. So what we are suggesting is that the smaller councils will be better for local residents. In terms of social care, which is a big part of what unitary councils do, what the county council currently does, it's been shown across the country that bodies of 250,000 people to 350,000 are the optimum size for looking after social care responsibilities, both for adults and children. We have a great responsibility to promote economic development, and the 3 councils, Pendle, Burnley and Rosendale, have all got absolutely wonderful records in terms of job creation and stimulating the local economy. So, Mr. Mayor, the decision isn't for tonight because the legalities, it's for the executive. My proposal is that this council recommends to the executive that the submission to the government is for a 5 local authority, unitary authority system in Lancashire. The decision is not ours, the decision is the government ministers. And I think between now and next summer, when the decision is due to be announced, that we do all in our utmost to get the government minister to agree with us that the best case for residents in Pendle is that the councils are as close to people as possible and as local as possible. I move.
Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to second what the leader has moved. LGR is one of the most important decisions facing our communities, and how we organise local government in a way that strengthens local democracy, improves services, and delivers real value for the people we serve. And that's what I think is very important, that we have that localism. We have Pendle, Burnley, and Rosendale, coming together. The dynamics are very similar that we talked about. The natural connectivity, and a lot of other dynamics are pretty much shared between the 3 authorities. So that's, for that reason I think it's really important that we keep it local. And I think one of the other big advantages of having 2 East Lancashire seats is we get two seats on the decision-making body that is going to be more strategic. So I think that will benefit the whole of East Lancs in the wider and across Lancashire. I think we are having conversations about the shape and the structure of local government. And at the heart of this discussion lies that the simple truth is that big is not always better. And in many cases, smaller, more responsive authority can deliver a clearer leadership, stronger identity, and more efficient public services. Mr. Mayor, local government works best when people feel connected to decision making and decisions being made locally. But when councils become too large, we risk losing the very thing that makes local government democratic. That people recognise their needs, feel heard, and see that their community reflected in local priorities. And our proposal for Pendle preserves that local identity. It ensures that policy is built around the unique dynamics of a place, its economy, democracy, and culture. Another one of the main strengths of Pendle Authority is its clarity of governance. Residents know who is responsible for what. They know where to go for answers. They know who to hold to account. If we have a large authority of over 500,000 population, decision-making structures become opaque, leaders become hard to reach, and when something goes wrong, responsibility becomes harder to pinpoint. And our proposal enables councils to maintain real, meaningful relationship with their communities, and it fosters a culture in which issues are spotted early, addressed quickly, and monitored effectively. The new Pendle Authority will have the agility and flexibility to design services that reflect the needs of local population. We will be able to adapt more quickly, be more innovative, and experiment with solutions that generally shape and harm its residents, whether that's social care, planning, risk protection, or economic development. And on economic development, I think this is a great opportunity where we can have that best east connectivity, whether that's a bypass or a rail link. Again, that's more strategic. It opens opportunities up, and not just for here in Pendle, but Rosendale, but also Lanarkshire as a right authority. And also, I think that generally sometimes people think that the bigger the authority, the cheaper it is, but that's not always the case. And experiencing what we're doing shows that it's so often untrue. And a lot of authorities will achieve economy on a larger scale, but in some areas, but we can also create slow bureaucracy and slow decision making, which I think somebody actually mentioned that about some of the other local unitaries where this decision making is so slow, it can take years and it can be, there's lots of costly layers of management. And as Pendle Authority, we can be more leaner, more focused, more agile, and respond to the challenges, and we can make it more successful. Mr. Mayor, ultimately the local government is not just about buildings and boundaries, it's about the people, and the people thrive when they feel connected to their institutions and locally here, and their councillors and each other. So therefore I'm happy to second the proposal. And I think it's also quite important. I know some areas not parished, but Pendle has a head start. We are parish, we can work very closely with all the parishes and our town councils to make this successful. We've got to be ambitious. We've got to, if we get the right team in place once we are up and running, we can make it very, very successful and we can make it very viable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mood. Councillor Us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been very clear on our views about LGR and about how I would sort of see the changes going forwards, and about how I don't really care about what the lines look like on the map. I want great services delivered for the people of Pendle at the best possible cost, and I think that's really important. Now, our hands are tied in some respects because we're using the building blocks of the different districts to deliver this bid, and that's understandable. We need the data, we work within the means that we have, but that does present us with some issues with this bid. We're 20% of the 5 makeup of that bid. Now, it's difficult for us to present that. We're 20%, so we've got to convince the other 80% that this 5 bid is also a good idea. Obviously, we're trying to convince government, but actually we've got to take everyone along with us in Lancashire as well. And that sort of brings me on to another point of Burnley.gov and Pendle on the front of this. Great to see that, but where's Rosendale in all of this? They're part of this plan, they're part of that 5 bid that we will be joined up with, and unfortunately we have no commentary from them. It's not necessarily a negative thing, it's just an unknown. We're in a situation we don't actually know what Rosendale think of this bid. And if we're to be tied up with them in parts of Lancashire, it would be really nice to know what they think of us, of our authority, and what they feel about our financial position, our cultural position, and our geography of the area as well. Now, in terms of financial position, it's hard to disagree with actually what either of you have said, both in terms of what the makeup of Lancashire looks like. But you've said that bigger authorities are not necessarily cheaper to run. I agree, but where's the data on that? We don't actually have any umbrella overarching data that says when we get to a 5 model, it'll be cheaper. And the reason I say that is because that's the ambition of government. I think that the fundamental reason that the government want to reorganise Lancashire is to make it cheaper to run. And I think that if we're going to appeal to their better nature for a 5 model, because I think I do agree with the 5 model, I do support the democratic nature of that, I think that we need to be sort of pandering along their own lines, you know, use their own aims and try and align with them to get into the right position to get what we want. Now, in terms of the identities of the different areas that make up the different the authorities that we would be linked with, I feel that we've got a very strong cultural identity with Burnley, but I think Rosendale is somewhere which actually Burnley struggles to, struggle to link with Rosendale, and we do too here in Pendle. And I think that's why I said right at the start, where is Rosendale? I think we really need to know about their cultural identity for us to be joined with. Something we are aware of is our cultural identity with the rest of our constituency. So in Pendle and Clitheroe, we have a good idea of what Clitheroe looks like. We share an MP, we share a lot of values, and I think that that's something that we're much more closely in line with. So that was something that I would have preferred to see in our bid, and I think I think that's a sort of common sense thing along those lines. We've had a sort of taste of that with the changes of constituency boundaries recently when we lost Briarfield to Burnley, so we can kind of understand a shift in boundaries. But I think that would really help if we could see some of that in a proposal. Now, in terms of the bid, I'm not against it. I think it's good. I think it's admirable, actually, and I commend all our officers and all the work that's went into it. I asked repeatedly, and Dean will know from the very first time I met with him, for data. Where is the data on this? What's it look like? I'm more than happy to support anything as long as it's got some data behind it and proof that it's actually going to work. And I think that this bid is probably halfway to meet my expectations, because some of those financial questions are not there. I think I'd like to see more of a council tax breakdown, I'd like to look back in terms of that. But then again, we're in the hands of government. They're probably wanting to change council tax anyway. We know that they've got proposals in the pipeline to do so, and obviously they'll upend us no matter what we do. We're in their hands. So overall, do I support it? Yes, I think it's admirable, I think it's good, and I think it delivers the democratic wishes for the people of Pendle, but it could be a little bit better in terms of its strength of bid to government. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Yassoi.
Thank you. Can I start off from where Councillor Ash Sutcliffe finishes off from? And I agree with him, and I agree with what Councillor Ripper said, what Councillor Mahmood said, and I think none of us probably disagree on the proposal we've put forward. And I want to thank the leader, the deputy leader, and all officers and the exec who worked on this, because it has been a mammoth task over the last couple of years. But I think it will take none of us by surprise the next thing I'm about to say, which is this: that the decision, in my view, has already been made by government, by successive ministers, and it's admirable that we are suggesting this 5-unitary council model, because that is truly local. But in reality, Mr. Mayor, what's going to happen is going to be a 3- or 4-unitary council model. The previous minister probably had his own preference. The new minister, who I can't remember what her name is now, but it doesn't make a difference. The reality is the decision has been made. And that's sad, really, because we don't really have a choice in all of this. Constituents in Pendle, of the surrounding areas, I haven't seen any local council where people have said, actually, we want this 1 or 2 or 3 unitary council model. Everyone wants a truly local model, and I think that would work at what Councillor Ash Sutcliffe said. I agree with that. We probably have more in common with the Burnley area than perhaps Rosendale, I probably disagree. I think I was against the Pendle and Clitheroe boundary, because I don't think actually we have very much in common with the Pendle people of Clitheroe. But that's a different story for a different day, Mr. Mayor. So I think what was interesting was, I think Councillor Mahmood mentioned a number of times Pendle Dale. I'm not sure if that's an official terminology or if that's been suggested for, but that's an interesting name. But I'm not sure if that's in the official documentation. I thought we said it once or twice, but he said it 2 or 3 times, and that's confirmed that he said Pendle Dale. So Councillor Mahmood obviously made his decision on not only the makeup of the council, but the name of this new unit. So he might know something that we don't. But Mr. Mayor, coming back to what this motion is, obviously it's the executive that makes the final decision. So in a sense, some of us councillors don't have control of what's coming from government, and secondly, the exec. So the Liberal Democrats clear what their position is. I don't disagree with it. I'm not saying I disagree, but again, we're here as a recommendation. The reality, let's be honest, let's be real. The decision is what it is, whatever someone says. It's going to be made from the local level, the exec, and secondly, it's going to be made by the local, the Minister for Housing, not Minister for Local Government, sorry. So it's sad really that they want to empower local communities. When I say they, the government want to empower local communities, but actually not giving much power to communities, because if they listen to communities, we heard from Councillor Wick that 8 out of 10, or 80%, 90% of people, that's not surprising. That's a similar position in Burnley, that's a similar position in Blackburn, or in Rosendale. Not one of these areas. I mean, I'm shocked that Lancashire County, well, I'm not shocked because they probably want to keep them up. Lancashire County Council is the only authority that wants a 2 unitary council model. So, Mr. Mayor, I do commend this document and the work that's been put forward, but in reality, I'm sorry to say, but it might be a bit of a waste of time. I'm sorry that is the case, because I think if we had this model, this would be the best possible outcome for Pendle, for the people of Pendle, for this local area, and in fact for other areas that will benefit from this across Lancashire. Thank you, Mr.
Any more speakers? Common Press.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like a big document, like on the numbers it isn't. If I can just draw your attention to page 19, which is basically sort of the effect summary bit where financial analysis comes in. The top right corner, there's a lot of comparison between the 5 authorities and the 4. Those graphs though have terrible X and Y axes. So the numbers are all wrong there. And they also repeat on page 72, 81 and 131. So all the graphs there just don't mean anything. They mix up thousands, single numbers, they're all around millions. So, please try and get that right if you're going to submit this. Same thing is true of the big graph in the middle. Overview of forecast positions including social care. Now with this one, obviously I thought to myself, well, there's going to be some sort of thing which reconciles, this is what this costs, this is what this costs, this is what we'll save, this is how we aggregate, this is how we disaggregate, and this is going to be a sum which comes to the numbers in this table. So I then compared it to page 90 and 91, where we have the overview excluding social care, and then on page 91 we say include social care. But that just says exclude again, and that says 230 million benefits. So, am I right in saying that after 5 years we'll have net benefits of £230 million? In which case, this graph in the middle here has 264 million. So, just an inconsistency there.
That's the graph.
And obviously, Mr. Langton put up the other models, which I'm sure we all had a chance to read, didn't we? We all had 24 hours. So I had a quick look at the Lancashire one, the 2 unitary one, and that seems to say rather than have £230 million of benefits in 5 years, we'll have a net benefit of minus 162 million. Now that's a £400 million difference, unless I've got something wrong there. So I suppose my question is a bit like what Councillor Sutcliffe said, is how does it all be put together? Where did we get the numbers from? What assumptions have we made based on our numbers, based on Birmingham numbers, I'm sure we shared it with Birmingham? What did we get from Rossendale? What's Lancashire got to come up with a fundamentally different number? So, are we voting for something that, or recommending something that will generate benefits, as well as localism, as well as other things? What assumptions have we made on all the other things that we as a smallish unit will have to take on? Adult social care, child social care, highway, waste disposal, all those extra things. We need to have an idea about what they cost. Because ultimately, we're all here, and we know it's going to be a challenge for us to suddenly start learning how to do all that. I know there's a long transition period, a year and a half or so to go until April 28, but there's a lot to do in terms of getting this put together. The other one that I then had to look through the assumptions on page 185 to 189, And again, the question comes is, are they just ours? Are they bringing other authorities in or not? And again, let's put the flesh on the bones about how that fits into this work. Because I think it's important that we know that. The final other point is, again, we like local decision making, and we want, whatever model comes up, we want to be able to still have some of that input when it comes to things like housing development. We've just done a whole huge exercise to get our local plan through examination. Hopefully it's in the home straight now. But if we look at page 169, 169 talks about the comparison of what we've all built across the Lancashire area and all the various authorities, and what the shortfall is against Nearest Angela Rayner's old targets. And we have a lot of shortfalls there, so what we don't want to lose sight of is the fact that we may well have to do another local plan at some point, and there's more local plans, and there'll be an issue there about how we can control our destiny as opposed to somebody else just saying, tough, go build. So it needs a bit of pulling together and a bit of tightrope check.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the leader and the executive and the staff for the work that they have put into developing the 5 UA proposal. Because although, as we all know, we have no real say in any of this, it is important for the people of Pendle and for the health of local democracy that we show that we are fighting to do what we can to deliver the best outcomes for the people and the residents of Pendle and indeed Lancashire as a whole. And others have talked about localism and in particular the leader of Pendle's True Independence, if I have your title right, talked about the need for local accountability, for democratic credibility. We know that we live in an era when there is widespread distrust, if not contempt, for decisions made in London and politicians in general. So I'm very welcoming of the fact that we've all supported localism and the need to try and develop something that is as close to people as we can in terms of decision making. The other area, though, that I wanted to emphasise that hasn't been talked about as much, but the leader mentioned it, it was about outcomes. And we know from the information provided earlier that the optimum size for the delivery of the best outcomes in terms of social care is around 250,000. We know, therefore, that the 5 UA proposal is very beneficial. The best proposal, in fact, in terms of delivering non-financial outcomes. Those outcomes that affect real people in their real lives. Outcomes which enable people to live the lives that they want to lead in the best way that they can. And it is important that we not just focus on finance and the money, but we consider these very real benefits that are less easy to measure financially, but nevertheless make a real difference to people. And that, Mr. Mayor, is what local government should be about, delivering, helping deliver the best outcomes to people, real outcomes to real people. So, yes, it's a lamentable situation that we are in this position where we are virtually powerless. But I think that collectively we all stand broadly together in supporting 5 UA, in trying to deliver the best outcomes for the people of Pendle.
Does anyone else want to? Councillor Arnold?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My thoughts on this report that we have before us is that I think for most of us, I think there's a lot of unknowns. That's the truth. That's how I feel. That there's a lot of information which we're not clear about what the outcome's going to be, because this is something new. We won't know the outcome until it's happened, whether it's going to be successful or not. Ultimately, we've got to try and make the best decision what's best for our residents in terms of the services that the new authority will be providing, education, transport, our roads, social care and many other services. And I think there is a difficult choice that we have to make, but we have to try and do the best for our residents. We talked about what do the residents want. All the people I speak to saying, why are we even doing this? Can we not just leave it as it is? But unfortunately that isn't a choice, because the government's made it clear that this is going to happen whether we like it or not. So we've got to play our full role in making sure that we get what is best for our residents, or at least we make an attempt to do that. And whatever the outcome is, who knows what the final outcome is going to be. Many speakers have said this evening, it's not in our hands, and that's the reality of it. But we still have a role, important role, to try and influence the decision makers ultimately. And like I said, whatever the outcome is, we have to then get behind that new structure and do the best for our residents.
Anyone else? No. Councillor, you want to wrap you up before we go to the vote?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope that light's not going to go on, because there is no way I can respond to all these questions in 5 minutes. I will be as quick as I possibly can.
Thank you.
First of all, let me say the local government reorganisation, the government's local government reorganisation, the Labour government local government reorganisation is set against a background of a devolution deceit. The government are saying they're going to devolve things, but what we are seeing is centralisation. We are seeing the concentration of power in fewer and fewer hands. I'm coming out fighting, trying to get as greater devolution that we possibly can to local people, residents, local councils here in Pendle. And my proposal, our proposal for 5 unitary authorities in Lancashire is very much set against that background. I think it was Councillor Mahmood who mentioned that we would have 2 voices in a combined authority. In any of the other proposals, we would be lost in mega councils in terms of the combined authority, a mayoral combined authority in the future. If East Lancashire doesn't have 2 voices at the table, we are absolutely sunk, because the west of Lancashire, everything Preston side of the M6, have dominated the last 50 years, and they will continue to dominate the next 50 years. So if we don't have 2 voices at that combined authority table, we are doomed. I'm delighted that we've had a cooperative approach across the council, across this council, but also with other councils in Lancashire. And just to pick up the point that Councillor David Coburn-Price made about the baseline, the finances, we have collectively worked together on the baseline, and the consultants have put together the figures and the disaggregation, the aggregation as a whole. About 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, in that sort of timescale, the County Council came along and said, well, we want to reset the baseline. And they said that instead of the deficits that councils were projecting, that we should assume that all the deficits are wiped out and that the baseline should work from balanced budgets and hunky-dory. Now, of course, my view is that the County Council were just wanting to hide the fact that they're £100 million in deficit and growing. And despite the promises of the reform administration saying, oh, we're going to get rid of all this and we're going to make all these savings, I very much doubt if they are going to achieve that. And they're certainly not going to achieve getting rid of a deficit and having no council tax increases. So, you know, get out of that one, Mr Farage. They are not going to be able to maintain what they promised they were going to do, and they're not going to be able to get to that baseline figure that they argued for. But we've got a common baseline. We are able to put together these figures. But from that baseline, each and every proposal, the 2, 3, 4, or 5 in our case, have worked on different assumptions. So you do get to a point where the figures diverge. However, in terms of David Coburn-Price's points about the graphs, we are aware that they need to be redone and recalibrated, and that that will be done. And in fact, Mr Langton and Curran have already spotted those things, and we'll be sorting that out. In terms of local plan, I very much hope that we will have a confirmed local plan. We need to get that, if possible, to the December council meeting, which isn't very far away now. Once that is confirmed, Pendle Council will have to start on yet another local plan. It's a bit like painting the 4th road bridge. As soon as you've done one, you've got to start on another. But the government are insisting that we have to start on a fresh local plan. When a new unitary authority comes in, I'm sorry, but these people need answers before they vote. When a new unitary authority comes in, that new unitary authority will start on yet another local plan, which, depending on whether it's 880,000 residents or 500,000 residents, will be anything but local, but nevertheless it will be what rules housing development and spatial planning overall. On the in terms of names, if we started talking about, well, what's it going to be called, I think we're getting in front of ourselves. The government will decide what it's going to be called. My preference, if we have 5 authorities in Lancashire, would be North, South, East and West, and ourselves being Pennine, not Penbundale or Burpendale, but Pennine. That's what we are, and I think we're proud Pennine people. And I look at this crest, which has the roses up at the top there. I'm representing part of Yorkshire in this council. I'm a proud Yorkshire person, although I wasn't born at Christiana Hartley Maternity Hospital in Combe. There are other councillors who are representing part of Yorkshire. So Pennine, I think we can all live with that one. Are bigger councils cheaper? Well, no. If you look at the experience of recently unitarised authorities, Cumbria split into 2 smaller authorities, Westmoreland and Furness, and remind me what the other one is. Cumberland. They're working quite well. Some of the bigger ones, North Yorkshire, which are mega, they are struggling. So bigger is not necessarily cheaper. Parish and town councils, I would prefer it if we went into a new unitary, whatever the geography, with parish and town councils in every community, because I think that's the best way of doing it. Councillor Sutcliffe asked about data. I think if Councillor Sutcliffe's satiated request for data isn't satiated. There are about, I counted them, I think it's about 13,000 pages on the shared database, the shared file that we can look at. And I've certainly not been able to look through all of that. There is a huge amount of data. I accept it might not be completely comprehensive, but we have done as much as we possibly can to make that available to people. Where is Rosendale? Well, I know where it is in spatial terms, but Rosendale are doing to us what we are doing to them. Rosendale are saying, well, we want a 3, and other councils are saying, well, we want a 4. They are all doing to people in Pendle what we are saying to people in Rosendale. But the people I've asked in Rosendale agree with our stance that they want a more local council. So I think, although our survey didn't reach very much into Rosendale, if they had been asked a question, I think that they would have responded very strongly in favour of keeping it as small as possible. And on that score, we and Burnley were one of only 2 areas that carried out surveys. Lancaster and ourselves, and they both gave very similar results in terms of keep it as local as possible, please. The county-wide survey, which had 13,000 respondents, was very much, it's a bit anodyne, but that was saying keep it as local as possible again. So I think the people of Lancashire, I think the people of Pendle, and I think the people who have shown an interest in this have said very clearly what they would like to see. Ribble Valley, yeah, I would have loved to have included Ribble Valley, but Ribble Valley stretches to Longridge, and given that the government are saying, well, you can't split districts, it's very difficult to actually make that link. Equity. The proposal that we are putting forward is the most equitable in ensuring that there are fair shares for all the new unitary councils. When I say fair shares, there isn't a pot of gold to share out. There are significant deficits that need to be addressed. And our proposal fairly distributes what assets there are, and also fairly distributes what liabilities there are. And of course the biggest liability is the county council's 100,000 deficit, which brings me on to the next point about that supertanker issue, where in order to make possible savings in future, we need councils that can be agile, that can be nimble. So Councillor David Coburn-Price said, well, where are the savings going to come from? I think those savings, such as they are, will come from that ability to innovate, be agile, make decisions that actually change the way that we operate. Councillor Yasser Iqbal said, we don't really have a choice. Well, that's never stopped me from saying what we should be doing, and I will do my utmost to make sure that the government ministers listen and hopefully respond in a positive fashion. It being an executive decision, well, in terms of any democratic deficit, I will, as leader of this council, I will always listen and act on what this council says. And if this council tonight said, no, we don't want that, I would not be trying to force something through the executive that was any different. But I am confident that this council is in tune with its residents, and our residents are very clear in what they were saying. 1 minute. Right. Social care. The biggest headache, well, it's more than a headache, the nightmare that we have in this country is social care. underfunding of social care by central government and not having a proper system in place. We are seeing that playing out in a care home in Pendle at Faverdale, and in future question marks and threats for Cravenside. So if the government were properly funding social care, there would not be the massive issue that there is for social care authorities. And that is the big danger of the unitarisation, that social care will be this black hole that sucks everything in, and other services, the discretionary services that we dearly love and our residents dearly love, will go to the wall as a consequence. That's why it's important we get our structures, our culture right in future, and I think our job over the next few months is to ensure that whatever the geography, we end up with a council that is responsive, that is listening and is actually delivering what local residents want. I could have answered more questions, Mr. Mayor, but I will sit down. I'm delighted that we've got a consensus. I'm delighted that hopefully we'll be unanimous. But let's get on with this. Let's fight for people in Pendle and let's get the best possible results.
Right, we've got proposal and seconder. All those in favour? Against? Thank you, that's carried. Any abstentions? Thank you very much, Councillor. Okay. Oh, good evening.
Thank you.
Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for His Worship the Mayor of Pendle,
Okay.
Councillor Mohammed Abba.
Pardon?